Hey guys, we're here with Marguerite Bennett. I feel like this has been years in the making. We've never been able to get our schedules coordinated to talk to you at a convention, but you're here now. Super excited. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
How's your convention been?
Overwhelming, but in the best way possible.
Awesome. Do you have anything special planned for later?
Oh goodness, pal times. Really just like hanging out with people. Like, you know, I love the con bar. The con bar is so amazing. But I've like in my old age, I feel like I deserve like finally like I've earned the right just to go back to the hotel room early.
Yeah.
And like have cocktails and eat flamin' hot Cheetos with my friends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like there's a stereotype that comic people are these like introverts with no friends. We have friends. We only get to see them every 4 months at conventions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No. Totally understand. So you have some pretty awesome books out. They're some of my favorites: Animosity and Insects. I still reread my Angela, Queen of Hell. She's one of my favorite characters. No, I just, let's talk first about what you're working on right now. What are, you're doing 2 books with AfterShock.
Yeah.
And so what was that like working with a new publisher? Did they kind of just give you complete free reign? Did you guys work these concepts out together?
Oh, so AfterShock, one of the founding members is Mike Martz, who was one of my, like gave me my first job in comics, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like back when I was still in graduate school, like I'd never been published, and I was a Scott Snyder's student, and so Scott like set up this introduction for us, and you know I brought him a bunch of my spec scripts, and he liked my stuff, and he was instrumental in hiring me at DC. And then when he made the transition over to Marvel and to the X offices, you know, he was like, Marguerite, how would you feel about writing some Marvel? And so, you know, so I worked there for a while, and it led to Angela, Queen of Hell, and to some other stories like A-Force.
Yes.
And then when he left Marvel and started this creator-owned company called AfterShock, you know, my phone rang again, and I was very excited. And he published, you know, AfterShock published my first creator-owned, which was Insects, which, if you don't know, is about this pair of Victorian lesbian lovers who discover this form of body horror that lets them go on a revenge killing spree. And it's just total like erotic body horror, and it's drawn by Ariella Cristantina, and it's super graphic. Just fair warning.
But it's also beautiful.
Oh, cheers!
It's beautiful.
But it was so over the top. You know, I didn't know what publisher would ever look at this pitch. But AfterShock loved it, and they gave me so much encouragement and so much creative freedom. And then when I came back to them, I guess a year and change later, with the premise for Animosity, I mean, it was the same thing. Like this idea is so massive and so sprawling and so absurd. Who on earth would possibly like greenlight something that's out there? But they, you know, were so encouraging, and they give me so much creative freedom, and they've just treated me so well.
I'll never forget when we got the pages for the first issue of Animosity at comiXology, and I do the guided view there also.
Oh, wow.
So I was just like doing the guided view for it, and like, you know, there's the first spread, and I'm like, oh, there's sweet animal. So Animosity is the story of you know, animals. They sort of simultaneously gain this sort of sentience, and they're really angry at how the humanity has kind of mismanaged the world and treated animals, and so they rise up and so the first few pages of that book, you know, it's like the animals, and then you turn the page, and I gasped at my desk.
Oh my gosh,
like,
that is high praise, thank you.
DC Bombshells is super long running and incredibly popular. Are you a history nerd?
I'm a huge history nerd. The deck's a little bit stacked in my favor. So all of my parents, my mom, my dad, my stepmom, my stepdad, at some point were history or government professors or teachers.
Okay.
And so from an early age, you know, we ran out of fairy tales pretty quick, and then my dad started telling us mythology. And we ran out of mythology, so he started telling us Twilight Zone episodes, bedtime stories, and we ran out of those. And then he started telling us, you know, stories from history. And so from a very early age, you know, I got Alexander at Thebes and the Siege of Leningrad. And so I was just steeped in this, you know, just you know, from the ground up. And so it's always been a huge passion and interest of mine. And so the stars really aligned with DC Bombshells. And like, so how would you feel about doing, you know, all the heroines in this sort of alternate history World War II? And like, you know, so I brought them this massive, I mean, like this 18-page Bible, essentially. And it was like, okay, we were expecting 2 pages. This works.
Sure. Overachieving.
And hit the ground running. Yeah. And like, you know, the first series digitally just came to an end and is wrapping up in print, which tends to follow just a little bit behind. And you know, at the end, like we've done over 1,000 pages of Bombshells, with Bombshells United, essentially the Act 2 of the series. You know, starting this August, I believe.
So let's talk about horror. I associate you with the horror genre. I also associate Scott Snyder with the horror genre. You mentioned you were Scott Snyder's student, and so how influential was that relationship in your kind of becoming a horror writer, or did you bring that already when you first met Scott?
I have loved horror for so long. And I honestly think that was one of the things that really resonated in our writing for one another. And so I brought him like original horror stories to class. Those are the things that he really made an impression on him. That he reached out a year after the class had ended. I was like, I'm still thinking about these scripts that you brought in, and and I think that if you want to do this career, because it's very difficult, I think that you're ready to do it professionally. That led to him setting up the interview with DC Comics. And horror is so thrilling. I mean, just that the catharsis is the thing that I crave the most. Going into it. And I have a lot of like opinions on horror, and I love analyzing. It's all I do with my free time, pretty much. Is that like when it's like, oh my god, I've had a horrible long day. What do I want? It's just like, I want popcorn, and I want a mimosa, and I want a horror movie, and I want my cat.
Favorite horror movie?
Oh goodness! I mean, well, there's so many things and so many different genres. I mean, even just like the analysis of like what goes into making of a horror story. Even to like what genre or what medium rather that you want to convey your story. So it's like if you're doing a monster movie, like a visual medium would be better suited for it. Because if you're doing it in prose, the person turns the corner and the monster's there, and then it's 3 paragraphs of how many feet tall it is and how many teeth it has and how many scales, and it, you lose the emotional immediate impact of it.
Yeah.
Whereas with a visual medium, that's immediate, and it's just sort of that sense of like the holy crud surrender. Whereas even down to things like the unknowable cosmic horror with Lovecraft, I honestly think that one of the major flaws in Lovecraft is the fact that he describes, like, that we have illustrations of Cthulhu.
Right.
It's like the fact that what makes Cthulhu terrible is not that he has a tentacle face. Like, what makes Cthulhu terrible is the fact that he exists, and so God is evil, or God is dead, or God hates you personally. And so we don't need the octopus face.
Right.
So it's choosing the medium to convey what makes this thing horrible to you. Like what just hits that moment of catharsis where it's so much, it's so terrible, it's so dreadful that you hit this point of surrender. And so I love all kinds of horror. I'm so excited to see it when it comes out. I'm so stoked.
But it sounds like as a writer, comics are really well suited to your horror roots, because you can write these stories where there's a visual impact as opposed to trying to parse out these paragraphs and paragraphs. So, okay, last question that we always ask everybody. What are you reading? What do you recommend to our audience?
Oh, goodness. For a total 180 from the horror, Squirrel Girl.
Yay!
Ryan North and Erica Henderson last night. Dang!
Oh, that was so great.
No, Squirrel Girl's the best. Ryan's one of my best friends. I named a character in Animosity after him.
And Erica wins, like, Best Dressed,
oh my god, hands down.
Right?
Like, oh, holy crow.
That was beautiful.
No, it's incredible. And so, like, Squirrel Girl is the gateway drug that I give to everybody. Where it's like, if you're into comics already, you've never seen comics done like this. And, and if you've never tried them before, like, I promise this will get you in.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and check out Animosity, Insects, DC Bombshells, and some of your great Marvel work. A-Force, Angela, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.